Does anyone still remember those old PC games, based on Sonic the Hedgehog? No, I'm not talking about the ones made with Flash and uploaded to sites like Newgrounds. I mean as in the games, made with those free-to-download game engines, exported into an exe file, with some additional files, packaged with it containing game assets and such. Much like their Flash Internet counterparts, their quality at best was a mixed bag, considering the franchise's fandom. While some of them were good and looked like they had actual work put into them, most of the fan games went in the opposite direction. If you search for any downloadable Sonic fan games, you are guaranteed to find the majority of them being overly edgy horror games, like maybe one of the characters becomes an overpowered demonic force of nature and slaughters the other characters. Those specific games are always guaranteed to contain blood and gore, just for the sake of adding shock. But if you end up looking deep enough, you may one day find a specific game that only a few people remember. Maybe because the game wasn't that popular, or the website that contained the game's download link didn't last very long, or it's hidden in an abandoned old forum that was never taken down by the original creators, essentially turning it into the internet equivalent of a ghost town. Now, I'm a bit of an enthusiast when it comes to urban exploration. When I'm not playing video games or mindlessly browsing the web, I'll be spending my free time watching urban exploration videos of abandoned settlements like abandoned shopping malls. I've always been intrigued by these people entering these pieces of history and discovering what was left behind. One day I decided that I wanted to do a bit of urban exploration myself. The only problem was that I lived in an area where any places that were closed down were almost instantly demolished and set to be replaced by a new settlement. A relative of mine once said that the town I lived in originally had a Sears of its own, but after it went out of business in the late 90s, it was torn down and replaced with a Goodwill. You can very much see why this is a problem for me. It was only a few minutes, however, when I realized that the internet itself essentially has its own plethora of abandoned sites. Most of them are gone, but are still easily accessible thanks to the Wayback Machine. Even though they're a rarity nowadays, it's possible to come across a forum website that hasn't had any traffic for a long time, with a last recorded member login being as long as over 5 years ago, yet as I've mentioned, still remains up on the internet due to the creators having forgotten about it. One of these ghost forums I came across still looked like it was made in the early 2000s, as if the user interface had never gotten any graphical updates. This alone already gave me that urban buzz I was aiming to get, the sense of unearthing and discovering something left in time like an archaeologist. The forum itself was basically a discussion area where members talked about phenomena and trends they grew up with in the 80s and 90s. Movies from that era such as Ghostbusters and Top Gun. Toys, including the original Transformers line and Cabbage Patch Kids. And even video games such as the Game Boy. Aside from discussion pages, there was also a forum page dedicated to fan-made projects based on these trends. Some of said projects included some members restoring toys they had from their childhood to look exactly like how they looked before hitting the shelves. Others were more customized, with members dismantling older Transformers figures, using pieces of said figures to create figures of the franchise's characters that weren't present until after the 2000s, or even just fusing them with pieces of other toys from the past to create Eldritch Frankenstein-esque things. Video games were the most abundant in fan-made creations, not just with fan art, but ROM hacks and even some downloadable fan games made by these members, with Super Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog having the highest number of these fan-made games compared to other video games. The Sonic fan games were the usual stuff you'd find on any site focused on such character swaps, with Sonic being swapped with other characters from the franchise such as Tails or Knuckles, or even characters from other franchises like Mario. ROMs of the original Genesis games including content and stages that were only present in beta versions. It must have been a while when one of these forum entries caught my interest. The forum message saying only one word, Sonic, in all capital letters, followed by a download link. The poster of said message only had a black box as their profile picture. Their username meanwhile was written in some kind of language I couldn't understand, though I couldn't tell if that was the strangest part, or that the message had no replies, as if it had just been left unnoticed. I was initially suspicious, and even debated just leaving the post to keep looking through the forum without a second thought, but the lackluster name of the game, bizarre forum member, and the overall surrealness of the message itself kept me from clicking away. Curiosity got the better of me as I soon found myself clicking the download link. The file itself was rather small, being only around 50 or so megabytes. I made sure to give the file a thorough check with my antivirus, and after being told by the program that the file contained no potential risks, I clicked on the exe file present in the folder. After a few seconds of black screen, I was met with a static image of an official artwork of Sonic from his Genesis years against a gradient orange background. White text saying "Press Start" flashed on screen as Genesis sounding music played. Pressing the Enter key would take me to the game's first stage. Instead of the iconic Green Hill Zone, I was met with a stage titled Not Special. Sonic was standing in an area that was completely empty, save for the ground he was standing on, and a giant gray ring that hovered over the ground and spun in place. The background being nothing but a black screen. Pressing right on the arrow keys made Sonic run forward until he stopped at the end of the screen, unable to go any further. That was when I noticed what Sonic does when you let him stand still. Sonic was staring directly at me. I don't mean as in like, when you don't move him in the original Genesis, where looks at you with a confused look while tapping his foot impatiently. He just stood motionlessly in place, looking at me. His eyes looked widened in an expression, looking unnerved as if wondering where he was. Knowing there was nothing else I could do, I had Sonic jump towards the gray ring, which caused it to vanish with him. The game transitioned to a new area, which I could only presume was meant to be a special stage as Sonic was spinning on a cluster of those red and white orbs, while a distorted version of the special stage music from the first game played. Instead of getting one of the Chaos Emeralds, however, Sonic ended up falling into a wall of gold orbs, to which I was suddenly assaulted by loud static as the background turned into a distorted red pixelated mess. I was still recomposing myself after that sudden scare that I hadn't noticed until seconds later that Sonic was now in another stage. He was now standing on a metal platform, an item box that showed an image of one of his shoes a short distance away from him. Meanwhile, the theme to Green Hill Zone blared in the background, only it was slowed down and altered. I was just confused at this point. Many questions swerved in my head, most of them aimed towards whoever made this game. I wanted to ask them what this game was even about and why they even created it. The only problem was that with an unreadable username, there was no possible way of directly contacting them, and trying to do so on the forum itself was out of the question. Part of me just wanted to close the game and forget about it, but another part of me was already making Sonic move towards the item box, as if in belief that progressing through whatever this was would answer my questions. Getting Sonic to spin dash and destroy the item box was tricky, but after figuring out that I had to press down on the jump button, Sonic rolled forward, smashing the box. As he did so, more and more item boxes that also projected a shoe on screen appeared in Sonic's path, which he rushed through, getting faster and faster with each item box destroyed. The empty stage seemed to loop as Sonic continued to spin dash through more item boxes, only getting faster. I tried to see if I could slow him down by pressing left, to no luck. Sonic just kept getting more and more uncomfortably faster, until he ended up crashing into a wall, coated in spikes. The sound effect that plays when you lose a life was heard as Sonic's death animation played, a static sprite of his arms and legs spread out as he looked at the player with a stunned expression and fell down off screen. Before I could even audibly express my confusion, the stage itself suddenly started to distort itself, looking like audio sound waves before suddenly cutting to a new area. The entire screen was now a blinding red, save for Sonic and the ground, which were now nothing but black silhouettes. Like the first stage, it was only a single screen and I couldn't make Sonic move further than the edges of the screen. After a few seconds of nothing, the screen began to get smaller as walls suddenly began to close in around Sonic until I saw nothing but pitch black. The only thing I heard seconds later being the sound of Sonic losing another life. I was then met with the name of the next stage, and Act 1. A rather disturbing beeping tone, played through the speakers as Sonic was on a metal platform just like the stage with spikes and item boxes. I was about to make Sonic go forward in hopes that it wasn't a single screen until this thing shuffled on screen. I have never played any of the Sonic Genesis games, the little I've seen of them being gameplay videos online, but I somehow knew for a fact that this, whatever it was supposed to be, was not an actual character in the games. This hunchbacked, tall, malnourished dark gray figure with a head that looked like a cow's skull, a single, clawed arm protruding from where the teeth would be, stood at the other side of the screen, twitching in a rather uncomfortable manner. I doubt this creature was even a scrapped concept during the first game's early development. It just looked too out of place for a Sonic game. Then the creature suddenly shuffled forward, which made me twitch in panic as I quickly scrambled to make Sonic jump over it, fearing the worst. Sonic bounced harmlessly off the creature as it walked off screen, but I had no time to breathe as the creature came back in less than a few seconds, shambling towards Sonic again. For whatever reason, I believed this creature was possibly the boss of this game, and that defeating it would end this surreal experience. The creature repeatedly walked in and out of frame as I had Sonic jump on its head. But no matter how many times I attacked the creature, nothing happened. The thing didn't show any signs of taking damage. Its sprite didn't even flash white like how Robotnik's machines do in the original games. I think it must have been 2 or 3 minutes of hopelessly bouncing off the creature's head that I was about to come to the conclusion that the thing was just invulnerable. But then, I got the idea that if jumping on its head didn't harm it, then maybe spin dashing would work. So, as soon as the creature walked off screen again, I made Sonic duck down and start revving up as a ball. Then, the very second I saw the tip of its head poke in on screen, I let go, making Sonic roll towards it. Doing this proved to be a fatal mistake, however, as the very second Sonic made contact with the creature's front, it suddenly grabbed him with its arm and held him up by the head. The faded orange background turning black and the platform vanishing, leaving only Sonic and the creature present in the black void. Sonic then showed signs of trying to struggle out of the creature's grasp, kicking his legs as the thing's fingers wrapped around his head. A hit-crushed sound effect that sounded like bones cracking was heard as Sonic continued to try and break free. The sounds were then followed by that of a crunching noise as Sonic's head suddenly got smaller and vanished behind the creature's head. It looked like as if the creature was actually crushing Sonic's head in its hand before the game suddenly froze, the sprite of the creature holding Sonic turning into a red silhouette before disappearing. The last thing that played was an edited sprite of Sonic standing in the middle of the screen, his head completely absent. There was no blood or visible wounds on the neck. It was like as if someone had taken a sprite of the hedgehog and erased the head, leaving only a headless figure standing idly. The only other thing present were 2 words that lingered above the headless Sonic. Game over. Even after a few months had passed since then, I still remember every little detail about that Sonic game. And to this day, I'm still left questioning everything about it. After having to replace my computer a week earlier for unrelated reasons, I tried to access that forum website again and find that game, just to see if I can find anything I missed, anything that could hopefully put my barrage of questions to rest. But the forum message where I downloaded the game from is no longer there. In fact, the forum website itself is no longer available. Not even with a Wayback Machine as trying to access what links there were of it left only lead to a blank 404 page. I refuse to believe that the creators of the forum suddenly just remembered the existence of said forum website and deleted it. Something else must be responsible for it. If anyone still has this surreal Sonic fan game in their computer, please send me it. This memory has been eating at me for God knows how long and I need answers. Who created this game? Why did they create it? What was that creature I encountered? I just want closure.